Good morning on Wednesday, October 5th. It's episode 305 of the 359 podcast. My name is BVG, and here are your hosts, Ben Fox Rubin, and I almost said Alfred Ng, Roger Cheng.
Whoa!
Sorry.
Ouch,
I've been in a rhythm. I'm sorry.
It's also October 25th, but that's okay. We went back in time.
What did I say?
October 5th.
I say October 5th?
I think
cool.
so.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead
this
and
is the
cut my
October
losses
5th
today.
episode. Bye-bye, BVG.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so we've got a stacked podcast for you. We're going to be talking about Apple and how it's boosted supply for the iPhone X, even though that may not be enough. We're going to talk about Amazon Key, a new service that includes a smart cam. And we'll be talking about Verizon bringing back full quality video streaming, which they had taken away 2 months ago. Boo-hoo. It's back, but it costs money. Of course it does.
Don't things usually?
Yeah, well, it wasn't before. It was free before. So as always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Brian will pick out the best, and we will get to them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
From 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
So Apple is desperate to get more iPhone X's out there. Latest Bloomberg report says that they've actually told their manufacturers to ease off the accuracy of Face ID so they can boost production.
That doesn't sound good.
Right. I mean, Bloomberg was clear to note that even with the reduced accuracy, they claim it's still more secure than Touch ID, the fingerprint sensor. But it's sort of it's another indication that the iPhone X or the iPhone 10 is going to be a really, really hard item to get this holiday.
Do you think that might actually benefit Apple in some way? I mean, like, obviously not with their bottom line, but at the same time, if it gets so difficult to get an iPhone 10, the resale market's going to be huge. If you're one of the few friends that actually has one, this will be like the it thing.
Oh, yeah.
That you could show off.
It definitely will be an it thing, a status symbol, one of the hot holiday items. I don't know if it's necessarily good because the reseller market, Apple doesn't really get its hands in, right?
No. It's more for cachet than
right. I mean,
else.
there's going to be a cachet for this thing just because it's going to be so difficult to find. But I know Apple they want to boost production. They want to get as many of these things out there because all the indications that we've seen from the carriers, the iPhone 8 hasn't really sold that well. So, I think there's this kind of disconnect where there's huge demand for the iPhone X, but there isn't a lot of supply. And it seems like there's a decent supply of iPhone 8s, but not a lot of demand. So they're in a weird position right now.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting on an iPhone 6.
Next up, we wanted to talk about Amazon Key. Ben, you actually were in Brooklyn for this briefing a few days ago. Tell me more about the service.
Yeah, I got to see a demo of this. Essentially, the way it works is that there is a new camera called the Amazon Cloud Cam that Amazon creates, and it helps enable a way of getting in-home delivery in your house.
And I mean, the smart cam, are they basically taking on Nest here?
In many ways, yeah, it would take on Nest and a lot of other smart cam developers. So this is Amazon getting its first major foray into smart cams as well. But the other thing that this could actually do is let in guests in future months. You could let in a dog walker or a house cleaner. So it works with the smart cam and also a smart door lock to actually enable this thing.
Cool. All right, lastly, Verizon brought back the full quality video streaming. This is something that they'd actually was part of your unlimited data plan until they took it away in August. There was a bit of an uproar amongst consumers who felt like they were being unnecessarily throttled down. Well, Verizon's bringing it back next week, but it will cost $10 extra to get the full quality streaming. Yep. Verizon's really just,
Do they hate their customers?
I feel like they look at this as an opportunity to get a little bit more money out of their subscribers.
So what did some of the other guys do right now? Like, I feel like T-Mobile probably does something a little bit more consumer friendly.
Yeah, so a lot of them do kind of throttle down the video quality. Usually it's down to a DVD quality or even less than 720p. But there's an option to either pay up for higher quality. I think T-Mobile's actually kind of giving it away mostly, and at least they offered an option for it. All the other carriers offered an option for full quality video. Verizon took it away for a while, which people thought was a sign that they couldn't handle the traffic. So the fact that they're bringing it back at least shows that their network can handle this stuff. It's important to know that a lot of phones really can't do better than 1080p. Like they talked about 4K
Well, that was my
video.
next question. It's like how desperately do you really need such high resolution on a tiny screen.
For a lot of people, it doesn't make a difference at all. There are like maybe 2 or 3 4K phones out there, like one that Sony makes, so no one buys it. And so that's a little bit more negligible. I think this is just getting it out there and having that option for folks who really care about this stuff. It's probably a small part of the customer base, but it's a vocal one. So it's just having it out there. All right. For more of these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Thanks for listening.
All right, so we'll delve into the chat, and I'll start digging out some of your best comments and questions right out the gate. People borrowing Mr. Tong's Bad Apple over and over and over.
Yeah.
This looks like a mess. This is a BS shortage. Wow. Hashtag RIP Apple.
Wow.
It's a tough. We always knew this was going to be a somewhat awkward year for them because with the iPhone 8, it's not a significant change from the past years with the iPhone 6, 6S, 7. It really doesn't even look any different except for the back.
I mean, I've talked to folks who've bought the iPhone 8 or 8 Plus, and these are people who, they don't necessarily care about the latest and greatest. They just wanted a new phone. They've had their phone for 2+ years, and they just want a new one. And I get their reaction. It's been like mixed to negative. A lot of it's just sort of like, this looks exactly like an iPhone 7. I mean, even with the glass back.
Yeah.
And, when I mentioned, it's got wireless charging, the response I've got from a couple people were like, well, I've got a really thick case. It doesn't really work so well.
Really?
So, yeah. So, like, so far the reaction has been muted. It really is kind of a utility.
It's shown in the sales, too, as you said.
Absolutely. All the U.S. carriers have reported earnings. Sprint was the last they did this morning. And pretty much everyone at least hinted at the fact that the lack of an iPhone X this quarter made a difference. Customer additions were lower than a year ago. Upgrade rates were a lot lower. People weren't moving around, and usually when a new iPhone comes out, that's a time for people to switch, jump around. There wasn't a lot of movement the last quarter. Granted, iPhone 8 came out September 22nd, so it was sort of at the tail end of the last quarter.
Yeah, but like I remember reading a lot of like analyst notes. There was so much discussion about the 10th anniversary being a quote unquote super cycle, where a lot of people were waiting whether 2, 3, or 4 years to actually upgrade their older, clunkier iPhones.
Yep.
And unfortunately, they're in this awkward position of either getting an iPhone 8 if they want the latest and greatest, which isn't really that different than past years, or praying that they're going to get an iPhone X. Are we doing X? You keep saying
I
X.
know. I keep misspeaking. It's iPhone 10.
No, I like X.
I like X too.
We just have to talk about it at every podcast whenever
iPhone
we
X.
mention it. But yeah, like the supplies are going to be significantly limited, I would say well into next year. That seems pretty obvious.
And the funny thing is, even last year, Apple kind of telegraphed to people through various media reports that like the big change is coming next year or 2017. Not 26. So a lot of people who were up for upgrades last year probably held onto their phone a little bit longer because they were thinking, well, the real big change, the real new iPhone is coming in 2017. Fast forward to now, and like right now, the only option is a phone that is marginally different or better than the last version.
So I guess it's worth arguing that change is coming in 2018. And then 2019.
Changes are always coming, right?
Change is coming next year, I guess, could be Apple's new slogan. They'll just stick with.
Are you ready to take some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so first out the gate, Pedro, is the 256 gigabyte or 64 gigabyte going to be harder to get? Space gray or silver? Is that going to be harder to get too?
Those are really specific questions that I don't know that we would be able to answer.
I think the answer is yes.
Yes. You're probably. I would say. Specifically to your question about whether or not there are differences, we can't say for sure. I would imagine both colors will be exceptionally difficult to get. I don't think there's going to be like a limited version. In terms of the memory, I would imagine a lot of people are going to go for the 256 gig version since they're already spending that much. So that might just be tougher because more people are going to want to get that one.
Right. Because it's a super user phone anyway.
Yeah, if you're spending $1,000 already, why not spend another $150 for the 256 gig version?
Yeah, thank you, Apple salesman.
And that is,
but you're right.
It's true.
You're right.
That's Apple's logic. That's why they eliminated the middle option. There is no longer that like
128.
Right, the 128. There's like there was always kind of a logical middle option that seemed like okay, it's not crazy expensive, but you get a decent amount of memory. They eliminated that option, so you have to go for like either way too much memory for a higher price or like not enough memory for the cheapest price. So not a great option either way.
But yeah, that's a good insight that the 256 is probably going to be even harder to get. But yeah, you're right. It's going to go from very hard to super hard to get either of those.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of agree with you. If you're going to be spending that kind of coin anyways, you might as well go all in.
Yep.
But
Totally.
at this point, you're going to try to go all in, and they're going to say, sorry, we don't have any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I wonder if people will settle for the 64 gig version if it's more readily available.
Just start waiting in line.
Let's
are
pull
the
that
lines
out to the
starting?
chat for people. I know Michael Brown's hanging out in the chat today, and I know
What's
you're
up, Michael?
Our boy Michael, mega Apple fan, and I know
Yeah.
there's more out there too. If you were in that situation and you got in that line and all they had left was a 64, would you settle or would you wait it out for the 256?
I would
I
be
know-
willing to bet
yeah.
that you would buy it. You'd
The
get
64?
No,
I was thinking the complete
no,
opposite.
no. See, this is what you'd do. You'd buy it for a while. I think they have a pretty liberal return policy at the Apple, especially during launch time. And so what I imagine people are doing are buy it immediately, either flip it or hold on to it until there's more supply of the 256 gig and like go back and return it. That
Okay.
way you don't walk away empty-handed. Right?
That's a good point. I was
you
thinking
waited in line.
I mean,
trying
if I
to
waited in line
sn-
for a week, well, for one thing, if I don't keep it, I would just flip it, right? Because that thing would be worth tons,
lot.
right?
Yeah.
So there's that.
Remember when
got
phones
options.
had like 4 and 8 gigabytes?
Oh God, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The dark ages,
It was not that long
No.
ago.
first world is
was-
problems.
Oh, it was not. Well, I mean, it was long ago. It was like 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years.
Yeah.
That's might as well be a century. All right, more questions.
Yes.
Channing Che, dumbing down the Face ID accuracy seems like a very un-Apple thing to do. What will come back? Will that come back to bite them in security tests?
I like the pun there.
Yeah.
Well done.
I don't know. It's really going to depend on. I mean, we obviously don't have it. We haven't tested it yet, and we won't know if there are going to be like different batches with different variations of accuracy.
Ugh.
It's all
horrible.
kind of complicated.
Well,
so-
not only that, but like during their whole stage presentation, they really emphasized the whole Face ID thing. So
right.
if we are going to believe this Bloomberg report that they are degrading Face ID in any way at all, it's not a very good look for them.
Right.
We got kind of a two-parter here, part from Derek, part from MWJ Davies, kind of coming from the same place. And you got to ask yourself, why does Apple always have shortages? Is it not a ploy? Why can't they figure this out? And would Apple really have a shortage of the iPhone X when they plan to sell in more countries than ever before, right from the get-go? Do you think it's the manufacturing problem is manufactured similarly to, the shortages of Nintendos and it's increasing demand, lowering supply in order to build hype?
I would say if this phone wasn't significantly different than previous models, then yes. But
You think they actually dropped the ball?
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if it's dropping the ball. If you read the whole Bloomberg report, it's actually a really good rundown of all the issues they've had, whether it's supply shortages for AMOLED displays, whether it's getting the infrared sensors to work correctly to fit into the phone because it's such a small part. There's so many parts they're kind of bundling together for that front-facing camera. It is a pretty complicated thing. They basically had to like throw away initial batches. They had to shut down production for a while because it wasn't working correctly. I think there are just a lot of complications because they did load a lot of new tech for Apple, into these phones, and it's a whole new production way of producing a phone, and that leads to complications. I mean, if it was just another iPhone 8 that looked the same and they somehow magically had shortages, I would be a lot more suspicious. But given the fact that this is so wholly different than previous models,
Interesting.
I buy the fact that there are supply shortages because they just can't make enough because it's so much more complicated.
Sure. All right. Thanks for that insight.
Yeah.
I think you made sense out of it. I mean,
did.
that
I tried.
changed my opinion on it. Because my guess was like, those jerks.
Right.
I mean, yes, still.
Yeah,
Do we have any Amazon key questions? I figured there would
Bring
be
it.
a lot of
Not yet,
skepticism.
but
Bring the
I do want to talk about that personally. I'm very interested.
I'm
but let's
curious,
knock out the
yeah.
last couple of Apple questions
Yeah,
before we
sure,
change
absolutely.
gears.
Sure.
Junebug, why didn't Apple make the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus with bezel-less displays? Don't they know if they did, they would be killing the phone game right now?
Yeah.
Killing it in the phone
I
game.
think that goes back to the point I just made. It's difficult to produce that many phones using that particular display. I think for that display, they're using AMOLED, which they're getting from Samsung. They can't get enough of those. That's why we're getting a real supply shortage with iPhone 10s. I don't know if they could have done it with LCD, which is what they've been using which was what they've always been using.
What
really.
with a bezel-less display? I mean, like we've already seen with Samsung that they went to bezel-less with all their flagship phones.
But
this
those
year.
are all using AMOLED displays.
Right. Well, taking out the AMOLED display part and just looking at it from a design perspective, it's obviously been proven that people are really interested in that product, as the questioner mentioned,
Sure.
because Samsung's doing really well this year and selling a lot of those phones,
Yep.
despite the fact that they had a phone last year that blew up. So
Right.
that's definitely shown that
Look,
they had a nice redemption.
I'm in complete agreement with you about why didn't they change up the iPhone 8 more? Like, why doesn't it have the bezel-less display? It doesn't need the Face ID bit. They could have gone with just that redesign, and I think a lot of people would have been happy with that. I don't know. The question is, I mean, clearly they spent all the resources on the redesigned iPhone 10 and didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the iPhone 8, right? So
yeah.
it's
I mean,
regrettable.
Like, there are some nice additions to it, but I agree with you that it's not as much as you might have hoped for.
And I mean, look, I think Apple, and I don't know, I don't have any insight into what they're thinking about this, but they probably wanted the iPhone 10 to look completely different from the iPhone 8. They wanted to create that gap. So, you either get the standard upgrade, the boring upgrade, or you pay up for like the wildly different, awesome flagship phone. And having that separation probably helps with their pitch to sell the iPhone 10.
I don't know. I guess I think that for a lot of people, they might just decide to go for an older model,
An iPhone 7,
and save money.
I think that's
those
I
are
think it's
still
a smart
available.
move for a lot of people who don't really care about the latest and greatest. Like the iPhone 7's a fine phone.
Greatest being subjective.
It's a very, very good phone, and for most people, they're not going to notice the difference in processor speed.
I don't hear
like whether
people
it's
cheering
zippy or-
about the 7 as much as I hear about the SE.
That's true.
Yes.
If you really want to save money, there's the SE.
Well, not only that, but like it's a nice phone
It's
for
a great
people
phone.
that want that size.
The iPhone 7's got portrait mode, which is sort of
Right.
a killer app that a lot of people, and it's cheaper now, right? It's
True.
$100 cheaper than it was a year ago. So it's a more reasonable option for people who don't necessarily need the best from Apple.
Ugh, portrait mode. Whispers doesn't care about portrait
I
mode.
love portrait mode.
I just don't
Makes
care.
my kid look super awesome.
Your kid is awesome anyway.
True, but it enhances his cuteness.
Okay.
By like tenfold.
I think you're selling them kind of short. I think you should come back and see this episode when he gets
No,
old enough to-
he's not gonna watch this. Come on.
No.
Dad was on a podcast. Ew.
What's a podcast?
What's a podcast?
That's what he's gonna say.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
All right, so real quick, before we move on to Amazon, we might need to speculate a little bit here, but let's talk about shipment dates. Do we have any speculative concept about when the next shipment date would be after launch day? And do we have any idea what the international schedule is going to be, specifically Asia? And that's coming from EBG Studios.
We don't. Aside from like the announced countries, we don't have any updates. And in terms of shipment dates, yeah,
It's anybody's
It's too
guess.
hard to say, but
Too
I
hard
wanted
to
us
say.
to address it. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. It's
stay
just,
tuned. When we learn more, you'll learn more.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're dying to get one of these phones, you'll probably be able to find it on the secondary market if you can't get it from Apple, but expect to pay up a lot more money,
yeah.
especially because of the limited supply.
So let's get to Amazon because I was actually really interested in this story. Cause
I'm just super interested personally as someone who's, apartment living for some time.
Yeah.
and
Okay,
I've
so-
never lived in a building with a doorman or anything like that. So a lot of times I have anything I need delivered sent to the office.
Yep.
And then I have
A
to
lot of people do that.
I have to haul it home. But it'd be awesome to be able to just remotely grant that access when I know I've got stuff coming. And I do a lot of ordering online.
Here's the thing. That's interesting that you mentioned that because that's a big use case. Sorry for saying use case. That's a big reason why Amazon wanted to provide this in the first place. There's such a thing as porch pirates.
Yep.
Things get stolen all the time. E-commerce companies like Amazon, Walmart, you name it, they get the thing all the way to your door and then it gets stolen. I mean, like, that's the most frustrating thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
Then you get an angry customer calling up. So if they could actually create the peace of mind for customer and also ensure that the package gets delivered safely inside your door, that's a win on
Although,
both sides.
Do you really want the delivery guy to come to your home? Or
So that's the other thing. I've
Yeah.
been paying attention to like some chatter on Twitter and Reddit, and it seems that a lot of people are like, hell no, I don't like this idea. It's too much trust given to any retailer. And it's similar to how a lot of people
I
respond
mean, most
to
of the
the
time
Echo.
you're not trusting the retailer, you're trusting the delivery guy, right?
Right, but the delivery guy arguably is like working and trained by the retailer. And
Well, I mean, most of the time it's like guys from UPS or post office, right?
in this case, it's a specific group that they were a little vague about who exactly is doing the deliveries, but they said
Oh,
that
so this wouldn't apply like
it
across
wouldn't
the
be
board.
UPS. It wouldn't be
Oh,
FedEx,
got
UPS, U.S. Post Office. It was.
So these are like
wonder if that'll-
vetted Amazon employees?
I don't even know that they're Amazon employees. Again, they were a little vague about it. They said that these are delivery people that you would normally trust to get your deliveries taken. So the way that I read that was these are generally third-party partners that Amazon works with to do the deliveries. But it's
Well,
not
being
like
that it's limited access, do you think that would have a negative impact on like Prime turnaround? The whole like 2-day delivery thing
argue
is a
no.
huge sell point.
their argument is no, and obviously Amazon has done a lot with its logistics to make sure stuff gets to you as fast as possible. So maybe they're doing it through Prime Now or a handful of other services that they have, but no, you're not getting it through USPS, FedEx, or UPS.
So let's talk about the benefits of this as opposed to somebody just manually setting this up on their own. If somebody just put their own security webcam, it's not hard, and then you were able to do Bluetooth key lock. What is the benefit of this Amazon specific application as opposed to just DIYing it?
Yeah, the way that it works with Amazon Key is it's a whole kit that's set up. It starts at $250.
And they install it for you.
They install it for you for free if you want them to. And the way the app is set up is that once the package gets scanned outside the house and the delivery person knocks on the door, then the camera turns on and starts recording. And after the package gets delivered, your door gets locked back up. You get a video. You can either watch it live or you can watch the video after the fact to actually see, here it is, it gets delivered, and then the person leaves. And you even have a specific on the app, this is how long this is how long your door was locked for or unlocked for.
How much
so it
is
could be as much as like a minute your door was unlocked for.
So it's just an extraordinarily detailed rundown of the entire proceeding.
It's a little bit more other than like outside of a DIY. Like this is a little bit more structured and tightly controlled. You get more notifications.
And how much is the service?
The service itself is free. Once you pay $250, that's basically it. If you wanted to get a subscription for the security cam, so you have more access, like longer access to video clips,
just like
then you
Nest.
can actually, exactly. Then you can pay for that. That starts at $7. But
So-
and by the way, this is U.S. only for our international watchers. So
Yeah,
at
thanks
this
for
point,
bringing
it's
that up.
U.S. only. Yeah.
I'm logistically speaking, I don't know if that really necessarily would help me in an apartment situation, just because I don't have carte blanche to have things installed and drilled and mounted in, say, my reception lobby area. Not to mention where my apartment's located, that wireless camera would never stretch the Wi-Fi.
Oh.
Well, you would do it outside your door. Like if you don't have a doorman,
Which defeats the purpose because the front door of my building is locked.
is locked, right?
Right.
So I wouldn't
that
be
would-
able to. That's
that
a
would be
double
I mean, I
tier.
imagine this would be more useful in the suburbs or if you've got
Totally.
a house.
Yeah, if you have it's generally for people that have a front door. One of the things that they told me too, if you're really kind of creeped out or uncomfortable with the idea of giving a delivery person access to your front door, then you could do it on like a side door to the garage. I have a detached garage, so arguably I could do it with that, where you just put it in the side door of the garage, and like the worst thing that they could steal would be my lawnmower, which would be a bummer, but still, like it's not like giving them access. And again, like I think that a lot of people were creeped out about this. They have to recognize the fact that there's video of the delivery person showing up, and this is directly connected to Amazon. So not only would that person probably get fired, but they probably get arrested too. So they're very like specific.
I'm assuming Amazon then would be liable if something terrible happened to you.
And I'm not suggesting that something like that couldn't possibly happen. You know, every system has its issues, but I think Amazon at least attempted to do a good job of setting up enough of a structure for this to ensure that something like that would be far less likely to happen.
James Favor and hold on, who do we have here? Jesse Gadman brought up the elephant in the room. Let's talk crack. Let's talk Wi-Fi hacks. Does this smart lock have a problem with security? Even more with the Amazon camera? Is this going to be susceptible?
literally anything that's Wi-Fi connected could be susceptible to security hacks. We've seen it a million times, or a
Yeah,
lot
exactly.
of times.
If
as
you
far
have
as-
a DIY setup with a Nest Cam and smart locks, like August smart locks, I mean, all that stuff is susceptible to hacks. I mean, that is a price you're paying for the convenience that you're getting with some of these smart devices. If you're not comfortable with it, I would suggest like sticking to a dumb, old-fashioned lock, right? And not having this kind of convenience. And it's something I would go back and forth on. I'm not sure if I necessarily want to give up my privacy for, for the chance that hackers could just sort of unlock my door
Yeah.
remotely.
In addition to that, I would probably say, broadly speaking, the bigger companies that provide smart door locks and cameras
Yep.
tend to have better software that is less hackable. Everything can be hacked,
Or at least
obviously.
offer updates. It's less that they have better software. I think they're more cognizant of the security issues,
Right.
and probably send out updates more frequently. I think it's the ones that like the third party unknown name
like
companies.
the much cheaper,
Yeah.
security cams, and we've seen it as far as like, being able to hack into the baby cam
Yep.
or
Yep.
stuff like that. It's not as secure as if you were going to buy something from Google or Amazon.
I think that's about the right place to leave off for the day. You want to send us home?
Yeah, if you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Feedburner, and Google Play Music.
Great discussion today, everybody.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll
Thanks
see you all
for
tomorrow.
watching. Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.